But why do you think today the kids are, not disciplined, and parents aren't, disciplining their children like it used to be back in the day? Why is that?
There's a couple reasons. All right. First, a lot of kids whose parents were a lot of kids your age, crack babies, meaning their parents were on drugs. So they didn't have any structure, because they saw their moms and dads off on drugs doing whatever they wanted. So when they grew up to have kids, they didn't care. You see, they already had a negative attitude. And so without disciplining your kids the correct way, it's a correct way
Mhm.
to discipline your kids with a spanking and not go upside their head. But guess what? The drugs caused some of these parents to go upside their kids' heads in the wrong way. And what we do as a people sometimes is we transfer that negative energy, the way we were raised, back to our kids. It's kind of like we do it unconsciously. Now, that being said, this is what a lot of people don't understand about why black people were notoriously famous for spanking their kids. Back in the day, we would always say that white kids got to do whatever they wanted to do. Black kids didn't get away with that stuff. And we would be proud of it. Oh, I had to whip them. Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. We celebrate hitting our kids and telling them no. The real reason behind that is that our kids back in the 40s and 30s and 20s, if you took your black kids out anywhere and they acted up, white people would discipline your kids. They would even take them from you. They might even hit you. That you might even get killed behind your kid doing something that a normal child would do, which is run around a store, which is throw something on the ground. So we disciplined our kids hard to say, you can't embarrass me in public. Don't embarrass me in public. It actually was a survival technique to save our lives. Now, what happens is it went a step further. During the 60s and the 70s, when people were having kids young, things changed. So people started it. You didn't have that survival mode anymore, but because it's a generational thing, you whipped your kids. You want them to do what you say, you hit them. You see? So that's kind of one of those negative things that got passed down to us, but we don't know the reason. You see? Survival. Your kids act up out in public during the 20s and 30s. You might not make it back home, you or your kids. So we always had to be on our best behavior. We always had to be better because of the consequences. And it's no different than that than if you've seen when Obama was president, when that lady stuck her finger in his face. And he had to be better than that. Because if anybody comes stick their finger in your face and you're the president of the United States, I don't care if you're the president of Duncan Hines coffee cake company, you're going to immediately grab their finger and be like, lady, you better stop playing with me. But we have always had to be better. We've always had to go high when folks have gone low. But that's the idea of the spankings. You see, it got out of control. That's the thing. It got out of control. So, but that's my take on it. Everybody
That's
might see it
interesting.
that way.
I had no idea, because I do know it is like celebrated. Even I kind of talk about, I couldn't do that back in the day because I didn't get a whooping when I see, kids today acting up.
You know, right?
Um, yeah. So speaking of that, how were your parents like as parents? I just know mine's grandma, or we're not allowed to call her grandma, but how are they like as parents?
Well, my dad, I'll start with him because I took a lot of the way he parented. And when I went to stay with him a few times and I made mistakes, I was terrified. And he'd be like, Mike, what's wrong? I'd be like, Dad, I did this. I'm sorry, man. So he'd be like, okay, man, you messed up. That's it. you know, because Grandma Washington used to put the big hand on him, you know.
Mm. I didn't know she
I,
used to put the big hand on them.
she put the big hand
Damn,
on everybody. But
I didn't know that.
yes, she put the big hand on all her kids because that's how kids were during that time when she was a
Yeah.
young mother. That's what
Mhm.
had to happen. So he didn't want to do that, and he didn't do
Right.
that. He
Right.
didn't. He was not my dad was so light when it came to that stuff, but he could get mad because if he asked you to do something and you didn't do it, then he would get upset. But he wouldn't punish you for making
Right.
a mistake, you see, for breaking a glass or something like that, or leaving the cap off the toothpaste, and you know how some black parents can be petty with stuff like that. He didn't
Yeah.
punish you for that. He just say, look, this, and this. But if he needed you to do something, like cut the grass or take out the trash, and he asked you and you still was bojangling, then he'll get in your face and be like, look, I told you to do something, you need to do it. And that's it. Now, your grandmother, I can't say the same for her. She had zero tolerance. Zero. She was not to be played with. You ain't joking with her. You ain't playing with her. You not. She was serious business, and if you got out of line, she would. She'd break that belt out on you. She would. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this story. We had some neighbors, and they used to borrow everything. Good Lord! But my mother would give them stuff. They would borrow everything. And one day, the lady came over and asked for 2 eggs. And I had seen my mother give her 2 eggs. Now I was about 14 at the time. So I
Mhm.
gave her 2 eggs. And Mom said, who was that at the door? I say, well, that was Peaches next door. What would she want? I say, she wanted to borrow 2 eggs. I gave her 2 eggs. She said, you did what? You gave her 2 of my eggs? I said, yeah, you give her 2 eggs all the time. So she slapped me, and then she went next door, told the lady, now, sorry, Mom, I got to keep it real. Told the lady, Michael gave you my last 2 eggs, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I need them back. So the lady got the eggs, gave the eggs back. No, she went, got the eggs, knocked on the door, came in, gave Mom the eggs. But I had left the carton of eggs on the table after Mom slapped me, you see, because I went in the bedroom crying. And then she came in the room and said, I went and told her them was my last 2 eggs, and you left the eggs on the table, and she saw that I had more than those 2 eggs. And she slapped me again.
Dang.
Yeah, damn. So, yeah. So tough. Just tough. I mean, looking back, I don't agree with a lot of it. I understand some things you got to make peace with about your upbringing because it ain't perfect. It ain't going to be perfect. You got to know what to process and what to let go. And sometimes your parents, they tried their best. Some stuff is wrong. Some stuff you can hold your parents accountable for. They are not, and this is from your father. We as parents are not fallible. We make mistakes too, and we can be held accountable for that. There's no reason to say just because I'm your dad or I'm your mom that I shouldn't be held accountable for something you felt that I did wrong. There can always be a discussion about it, an apology, and an understanding. And that's from somebody who got enough whoopings in his lifetime. I don't want no more.